So we all obviously know about the Gemini API, but Google just changed the way how you would build with Gemini, whether it's an application or an agent. And the way to do it now is via the Interactions API. So if you build anything on Gemini, this is going to change how you do it. So in this video, I'm going to explain very deeply what Interactions API is all about. But before I go there, let me just show you what it does really quickly. Build this little app, I call it the concierge, Surya's concierge. And what I'm doing here is I'm giving it this particular sentence, right? Barbecue and live music in Austin this weekend. I've got my dog and I want to keep it under $100. Now, as soon as I do this, it lights up a real map, which is an embedded map. And what it is also doing is it is going to find various spots within Austin, real places, real hours, and also dog-friendly ones, right? Then here's the part that gets me. You can see that it actually hands this off to an agent in the same conversation, and the agent actually writes it up with a finished itinerary. A model working with the map as well as working with the agent, all of this together for you to actually come back and get the answer. So that's a very interesting one because this is something where you're just using one particular API and you're able to see how one API is able to do all these different things. So later in the video, I'm going to actually go ahead and explain you how this is now possible via the multi-turn call, where it also has the grounding from maps as well as grounding from search. And then it is also calling the agent under the hood, right? Generally, if you think of the previous Gemini API call, which is the content generate, you will only do the model, which is you'll give a model ID. And then if you have to do this, then you will have to create a new one, right? But now with Interactions API, the surface just becomes one, right? And you are able to call all of these things together. So I'm going to go much deeper, but here you can see that it was able to find all different spots, and I'm able to also click and interact with this. And it's pretty cool, right? So this is what I wanted to show, gives you the entire plan, and it also gives you the detailed pipeline log, right? And this is an application which is just for you to understand how Interactions API works, because the main thing that is super different and also was done with the GA is this multi-tool orchestration, which the API does now, right? So you can see the reasoning, the agent conversation, the code execution, and then obviously the grounding and the tool calling, which is very different. Okay. So with that, what I want to do now is explain you what actually is the change, right? And what actually is the Interactions API. To be honest, it's obviously not a new model, right? It's not smarter. It is the same Gemini underneath, right? So what changed is the way you talk to it. And that one is what makes building something like what you just saw feel simple. Instead of a pile of plumbing you will wire up yourself. Because right now, every time your app messages Gemini, it starts from scratch. So to hold an actual conversation, your code resends the entire history every single message. Obviously, this is all abstracted from us, right? So from the user. So we feel that we don't have to send the whole message and it's remembering everything, but behind the scenes, it's doing that, right? So it's slower, it is pricier, and honestly, it's a hassle to keep track of. And asking it to go work on something for a few minutes or hand a job off to an agent, that is the old way, and it was never built for that, right? So the Interactions API actually fixes all of that. Gemini now remembers the conversation for you. It lives on Google's side, not yours. You can hand it a slow task and let it run in the background, and you can point that same call at a full agent, not just a model. So let's take a quick tour of what just became possible. Agents, you don't have to run yourself, right? One call spins up an AI, which is the Antigravity agent that can run code and browse the web for you. Antigravity, as I mentioned, is the one baked in, and you also saw that in the initial demo. And then it also has real world tools, right? So grounds answers in Google search, in Google Maps, runs code, even calls your own functions. The model reaches for them mid conversation. Then you can think of them as mixing brains. So you can send a research agent to go dig up something and then a fast model to summarize it. Again, same conversation, no glue code required. And finally, it also works in the background, right? So you can kick off something slow, get pinged when it is done. And oh, by the way, you can also have like pictures, music, and voice. All of that is built onto the same call now. So that's the Interaction API in about 2 minutes. Now, let me show you the app and go under the hood and then go ahead and explain what is happening over there. Okay. Quick disclaimer before we go there, all opinions are my own and do not belong to my employer. All right. With that, let's get into it. All right. So as you can see that I am here on the blog where they announced the GA of Interactions API. And Google is calling Interactions API as the primary API for interacting models and agents, right? And this is huge. You can see clearly that this is mentioned. This isn't obviously a side feature, it's really a new door, right? So it's one endpoint for all of it. So text, chat, tools, image generation, function calling, as I had mentioned. So you can see over here, what it also does is whether you're calling a model or running an agent, it allows you to get there in few lines of code. So you can pass the model ID for inference as well as an agent ID for autonomous tasks and set background is equal to true for long running agents, right? So that is pretty interesting as well. Now you can easily run long running agents just by saying background is equal to true. They're also making running long running agents very easy. Here you can see it is talking about a model. Here you can see that it is actually interacting with the agent. Okay. So these are all the things that they have announced as well. Managed agent, which is the anti-gravity agent as well, background execution, as I just explained. I also talked about the Google search, Google Maps, all of these tools which are built in. Then there are deep research, specialized agents that are also added. Media generation, as I'd mentioned, right? All of the types of generation is possible along with the search grounding. And then also simplified schema for every action, which also like increases the speed and efficiency, right? So you can see here, there is a potential to decrease cost by 50%. So this is pretty good. And the way they are thinking of this is they want to give it like an agent first ecosystem. So what I did was I installed this skill within Antigravity when I started building the app. And it really helped me to build the app that you saw very quickly. Now that we have seen the blog and have understood the main things, I want to now go into the demo. All right. So looking at the demo, you can see that I'm only giving one specific sentence and I've already provided my Gemini API key. What it is really doing here is, and this is interesting because I want to show you the real kind of log, right? So it is initializing stateful interactions API sequence and then connecting to the server SSI pipeline. What it also means here is if I click on show under the hood, it is actually doing a stateful multi-turn over here, right? And then it will do, so first of all, here it is calling the model, which is calling Google Maps as the tool. And then once it gets the result, then it will pass that to the anti-gravity agent, right? Because what I've also asked it to do is it will combine the output of the turn one, which is grounding calls the live maps API to verify location. And then turn two will invoke a secure remote code sandbox to write and basically compile the local file, right? So this overall takes kind of 1 to 3 minutes or anywhere closely around it, because we are doing like multiple things. And I've also asked it to render on Google Maps and actually lay the output on top of it, right? So what you're going to see very quickly here is once this is complete, we will be able to see the entire plan. So this is like a plan that it has created. And then we will also be able to see like the overall spots, right? So if you see here, like it has completed this. So these are all the spots, and this is all through the Interactions API. I'm also able to look at the map on top of it. It also like locates where this is, and you can obviously like interact and stuff like that. So this is the distance relatives, and then I can go to Golden Acres. So it does a really good job in explaining and taking all of these things, right? So you can clearly see that it is like dog friendly and stuff like that. You can open the actual map like at any point in time, but you can see this interaction over here. So if you're technical, this is the good part, right? The whole thing is two calls. Quick context, the old Gemini API was generate content. You gave it a model ID, got one answer, and that was it, stateless. If you wanted memory or tools or an agent, you built all that yourself. The Interactions API replaces it with one surface, interactions.create, that does models, agents, tools, and memory, right? So the first call goes to a model with the Google Maps tool bound to it. That's the grounding. That's where the real places come from. And this is the whole trick, right? The second call just passes this one ID. That's how it inherits the entire conversation, all the maps data without resending a thing. No glue code, one ID, right? And notice the second call isn't a model. It's an agent, which is the anti-gravity agent in its own sandbox. Same interactions.create. It picked up the plan and wrote the file, and it's all live, real map call, real results, the agent reasoning, nothing is faked, right? Again, one conversation, a model and an agent connected by one ID. And that is what is an Interactions API. Okay. So this is what I wanted to cover today. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know in the comment section if you guys have any questions. And of course, if you're new here, please hit that like and subscribe button if you felt that this added value to you, and if you're interested in future videos like this. Okay. Thank you once again for your time. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.